Do you need a handmade thank you card? Well, come on in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Senior Susie Stamps. This is Julia Laird. Today, I want to talk about handmade thank you cards. This is the first card I made, and I used a Sizzix 559202 cutting die. This is a nesting die that I've had for several years. And you don't have to have this exact one. Just use what you have in your stash. Well, first of all, let me show you about these little magnets I got. These I got from the Dollar Tree, and they work great on my little magnetic mat. These are shower curtain weights, and they're wonderful. So if you have a magnetic mat and need a good magnet, this is a great option. They'll even go all the way through this little mouse pad, where these are a little challenged, but I thought I'd show you that right quick. On to cards. Now on this card there's several different aspects. Of course, first is the die cut, and I was going to put another die cut on top of that, this one, and then I decided I didn't like. I did kind of like these little paisley viney things, so I just stenciled through that, and you can see that in the background. The other thing that I used on this card was some rub-ons that I got from the Dollar Tree, and you can see I just cut around, and this is a rub-on, this, and then this is a rub-on on top of a rub-on. I put the flower on top of the text there. The laser die cuts came from a 49th and Market pack, Vintage Artistry Naturalist, and it had these really nice die cuts, and so I used the flower out of that. The Thank You for Being You came out of an old stamp set from Stampin' Up. It's 2006, and it's this one. The purpose of this video today is showing you how you can use the same elements and step up a card. And this is the same basic element. It's this layer, and then the next layer down, which is this layer. And so I cut my card base out. It was scored and folded and burnished. And then I took the larger of the dies and cut my card base out so that it would fall down below a little bit on the top layer. And you can see how that works here on the back. See how it falls down just a little bit below? And then it gives you an opening useful card. And then I cut a top layer using this die. We're going to use that in a minute. And then I cut a second layer using this die. So on this card, I have stamped, and again, I used the same stamp set, but this time I used the leaves. That is stamped in Memento Ink gray flannel, and then I went back over it with a little bit of green ink just to kind of tie it together. These little olive berries are gray, and that's why I chose the gray background and the gray inking around the outside. And then you can see there are rub-ons on top of this, and there's laser cut die cuts. The little bird and this leaf here are laser cut die cuts. And then I put it on my MISTI and stamped the sentiment so I could get it straight. So now today, I thought we'd step this up even further. Vintage Artistry Naturalist paper has some rub-on transfers, and it comes with a little rub-on blade. I don't find this to be overly helpful because I've gotten so spoiled with this big Teflon bone folder that I have. If you don't have one of these, I know you'll notice a big difference when you get one. So these are the rub-ons that are in that pack. There's all different kinds, and they're just stunning. 49 and Market does an outstanding job on everything they do. But we'll be using a little bit of that later. I have taken gold cardstock and made just a single back layer. It started out at 5 1/4. by 5 1/4, and I used a Stampin' Up! Corner punch, this one with a little scallop edge on it. You can see how that's going to look on there. And then I put one of the easel stands that I cut out of a big Z die on the back of that. So this is going to be a standing card when we get finished with it. Now on that 49 in Market, this is the first layer, and I've already cut it out, so that's ready to go. This is the card base, and that's ready to go. But we need to cut out the first layer, and I wanted to use the cover sheet of that paper because it has this really nice kind of a mottledy green color, and I want to cut that in a way where I take the center out, but I still have these little images here that are useful in fancy cuts. So I'm just going to cut this off the top like that, and I'll be right back. In the making of this card, because of the way the mechanism opens up, you can see there's going to be a little turn back on this. So this card's going to have to be doubled up on dimension in order to give enough space for it to open when we mount it on this. But let's get started putting this together. I'm going to use ATG on this. And we're going to glue this down. Now because I'm going to have so much dimension underneath this card, I'm not going to build much on the top of it. You need to pay attention to where your top is on these. And then kind of space it evenly. I'll look at the points to make sure I've got them all lined up well. Let's just see if a little rub-on wouldn't be pretty on that. I think maybe just a little small piece over here. I want to leave plenty of room for my sentiment up there, but I think this little piece right here will add something to that. And so I'm just rubbing this a little bit, and it'll come right onto that. There. Maybe just another little small spot up here as well. You don't have to overdo rub-ons. And you can go back in and layer in on top of them. So you can do a double layer like I did with that other card. And it works just fine that way. I'm going to put this thank you on this card, but I'm going to set it up on my MISTI, and you've probably seen the video on how I remount stamps and use my MISTI. That's what we're going to use today because I want to try to get that lined up. You know, I use a piece of acetate and Memento Black on my stamp layer. I'm going to pull this off because I've got it mounted to pull. Give myself plenty of room. The first stamp I'm going to do in Memento onto my jig. The reason I do this is because it'd be my luck I'd try to stamp on this piece and completely screw it up, so I'd rather not do that. And I hope you can see where that image is going to go. I think that'll be fine. And then I'm going to lock this piece down, pull my jig out, and switch over to VersaFine ink. This is Onyx Black, and it should show up really nicely on this paper. Doing it this way rather than just stamping down on the wood stamp gives me the opportunity to make sure I get plenty of ink on it. Oh yes, that came out very nicely. All right, good deal. Some little die cuts here that came with this paper pack to see if maybe there's a little some kind of addition that we want to put on that. And I'm noticing this butterfly that matches it, so that's a possibility. This is an easy, quick card to make, and you get a lot of bang for your buck using these little die cuts. There. Now that little guy will kind of hide where I came off on the rub-ons a little bit. There's always a way. Okay, I want to double dimension this. There. Now that's good and solid, I think. So we're going to go ahead and glue this onto that gold background that I've got. And this is going to be kind of a bulky card, but I think it's well worth it. One of the reasons that I wanted to use this gold piece is because the paper that I put on the front is a lot heavier weight than that 65-pound cardstock. And so I didn't want it to overwhelm that for me. This is where these magnets kind of really shine. Okay, I'm going to put this point and this point on this line. There we go. Right like that. And then you can do your sentiment here. You have enough room to open the card because of that double gap back there. And you have a beautiful background with its own easel that'll stand up. So now I've gone back in. I wasn't satisfied with this card, and I went back in and added a little olive branch to that out of those die cuts. And I want to add a few little of these little Nouveau Drop enamel dots. And they're a little bit bluish, but I think they'll work just fine with this. And I don't need a lot of them, I just need a few in there. Just something to kind of help move your eye around a little bit. There. Yep, I kind of like that. So let me get those glued down. And then this card is done except for whatever I'm going to put on the inside, but I'll probably just do a little handwritten note on that. I'll just put a little glue dot on that. There's a video on this on my YouTube channel, if you haven't seen it, on making your own enamel dots out of Nouveau Drops. There. And that bluish tint kind of takes on the green in the background, and it adds just a little bit of interest in there without adding any dimension to it to speak of. Oops, just pulled that right off, didn't I? Well, we'll stick it right back on there. Okay, so this is Julia, and I hope you have enjoyed these cards today and this lovely 49 in Market paper. So I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.